Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming. We appreciate it. Director, good to see you as always.
Too, sir.
I know you've got a busy schedule, both of you, and we've got a lot going on in the world, it turns out.
Both wearing great socks. Look at that.
Yeah, look at
Not
that.
even planned.
Look at that.
Not even planned.
And notice the purple, just so you all can see the purple. There's purple shirts, purple ties, it's Purple Day. So thank you for supporting us.
Of course.
Appreciate that. Obviously, a few days ago, President Trump authorized a limited but high-impact military operation. We're all aware of that, against the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and those targets. Obviously, it focuses a lot of things in the nation for you all, more than us, but we're all in this together, and obviously centered on those weapons and facilities. This action pretty much underscores the evolving nature that we and you, of course, in high-level government are faced with to address for our nation. Director Patel, given the hybrid nature of these threats that we see up through a few days ago, and we'll see to continue, how is the FBI, in your opinion, adapting its coordination, your coordination with local law enforcement, like the sheriffs, throughout the country and the jurisdictions, and to disrupt that, and what can we do to assist in that?
Well, first of all, thanks as always for having us. It's the local law enforcement that really feeds the protection of the community in this country. It's been what I've been saying since before I was ever in this job. And I've learned a couple of things. One, you need a great command and control operations center at the Department of Justice. And with Todd as our Deputy Attorney General, who we report to every day, it's been a fantastic relationship. He recognizes the importance of local law enforcement, and in times like this, he's empowered the FBI, along with our Attorney General, to go out there and say, we got to protect the homeland. We will do it at the federal level, but in order to accomplish that mission, we must partner with state and local level law enforcement, tribal community law enforcement. And that's what we've done. We've quietly pushed that out. And not to take away from the other priorities of the administration. They're equally as important, getting rid of criminals in our communities, illegals in our communities. But right now, the focus, given the nature, especially what just happened, has to be on protecting the homeland and protecting our communities, especially since the prior administration allowed so many thousands of known or suspected terrorists into this country and didn't account for them. And we now have prioritized looking for them. So we have a great partnership at DOJ, and we're thankful to have the DAG helping us lead that mission.
Yes, sir. Well, General Blanche, what, based on that, and of course it is a all of government approach and all of law enforcement, right? With us, with you, and so on and so forth, and General Bondi, what can you add to that? What the director just spoke to?
So look, thank you very much for letting us be here today. We appreciate it. I echo the director's appreciation for that. The other thing that we have and that you all have that is unusual, certainly in as far back as I can remember, is an attorney general who was her entire career a state prosecutor and then a state attorney general. So between what Director Patel just talked about and an attorney general who has her entire life spent working at the state and local level, we do have a great partnership, and we do think every day about how we can be better at communicating and getting information from not only at the federal level, from FBI to DHS to our intelligence community, from our intelligence community, but also to sheriffs and state and locals, because that's the only way it'll work. And it's not. I mean, I know everybody will laugh at this, but it's not perfect. The feds are not perfect. We're not. There's a lot of things that we need to do better, but it does help when you have Director Patel and myself talking multiple times 7 days a week, the Attorney General and myself talking multiple times 7 days a week, and then also constant communication with state and local leaders, sheriffs, district attorneys, states attorney generals. That's the only way it can work, and that's what we try to do every day.
Thank you, Deputy General. You mentioned too about the people that were let into this country, that we know where some are, you know where some are. We're trying to remove those people from that threat from our country. And one of the things that President Trump did was, at all of our requests, and we're all in favor of, is designate the cartels as international terrorist organizations, because that threat too is coupled with a nexus of whether we're talking China, whether we're talking Iran, etc. And so with this threat picture, right, I think and it's obvious to us, and we've met several times, and we're very thankful that you have really reached out and involved the sheriffs of this nation, and you in your office, Todd, have done the same thing with Pam Bondi. And so as we move forward with these threats, and again with the cartels, I want to emphasize how important it is that local law enforcement, because we are your eyes and ears out there. We're that force multiplier. But having that, how can we, the problem is so large, it's easy to say, oh, let's try to fix that. But in reality, what can we do to fix part of it stage by stage, step by step, sir?
At the macro level, when you step back at it, you have a very unique relationship, and I want to highlight this. Normally, you have a DOJ and FBI that work together because they have to work together. We actually like each other, and it sounds silly, but literally, we've known each other for decades. And we have a relationship where if you in rural town America need something, I'll call the DAG's office and he'll get it done. Or if he's like, hey, did you see this threat reporting? We may need to cover down. Can you send some agents out in the field? And we'll do the same thing. So on a macro level, you should be assured that not only do you have that relationship at headquarters, but what you also have is prosecutors willing to enforce the administration's agenda on foreign terrorist organizations. It's meaningless if they designate them an FTO and we don't do anything with them. But that should empower you all to go out into your communities and arrest these criminals and arrest these narco traffickers and charge them and have the basis that you need and the support that you need to go out there and charge them, because we have a Deputy Attorney General, an AG, and a DOJ who are more than willing, who are just great partners in achieving the indictments that normally we would not be able to achieve. And so at the town level, my ask is the same thing that I asked folks in DC. You got to let us know what you need and what's going on. There is no better ground level intelligence than cops. None. Zero. And when you partner with local level federal prosecutors and state prosecutors, that is the core mission to achieve securing our community. And if you do it town by town by town by town, then it replicates, and then it has an effect that is cascading onto the rest of the country, because you see us doing the thing we need to do most, protecting our children. And that's what it comes down to. But I think you all should be really honored to have the jobs that you have, and I know you are, but I think you should know that in Washington, we're listening to you, and we need to hear from you more. But you should trust that the relationship that we have is probably once in a lifetime between FBI and DOJ right now.
Well, and Todd, yeah, thank you. And Todd, with that, I mean, information is key. And information sharing is key. Obviously, we're sharing that information with the director and his team throughout the nation, but it's also imperative when we bring those cases, or when cases are happening across this country that your office is going to be prosecuting. Could you maybe speak about that, the information and that highway of information, how it comes in, how it goes out? What do you need? Again, what do you need from us? Because we want to make sure we're getting you what you need to assist us in removing these individuals from our streets.
So it's what we spend a lot of my time talking about at the Department of Justice, is how to get the right information from you guys, and then how to then get it back out to the people that matter. Listen, the cartels that are in, the Mexican cartels, the South American cartels, they are terrorists. And it's a change in verbiage and form to not just be talking about Al-Qaeda, but to be talking about these men, mostly men, some women, who are leading these organizations whose full-time job is to inject poison into your sons, your daughters, the people in our community that are otherwise vulnerable. And so the fact that President Trump designated these organizations as terrorists shouldn't surprise anybody. But it is surprising to people, because for the past 25 years, when we think terrorism, we think Al-Qaeda, we think 9/11, we think somewhere far, far away in Afghanistan, people that are living in caves. And they are terrorists. but that there are terrorists just south of the border as well. And so when we think about how we can communicate together effectively, that's my message. That's the message that we tell our prosecutors every day. That's the message that the Attorney General tells everybody she speaks to every day about our mission. And so the feds are a piss poor choice for a lot of drug cases. The state and what you guys do at the state level is much better. There are other cases where we are a really, really, really good alternative to what the state can do. And so the important thing in coordination and working together, and I know this is something that a lot of people talk about, but we're going to do it. And that's to make sure that we're working with state and locals and prosecutors. And it's true, we've unleashed our assistant U.S. attorneys around this country to focus almost exclusively, not exclusively, but to spend a lot of their energy and time on immigration-related offenses for the reasons that the director talked about a minute ago, because we have to get these folks out of the country that should not be here, and on violent crime and combating drug offenses. And that's something that there can't be a sheriff, whether you're a Republican, whether you're a Democrat, if you are a sheriff, if you are a Fed, you cannot be upset about that agenda. You cannot be upset about an agenda that says we need drug dealers to stop their peddling. We need to stop drugs coming in from the border, fentanyl coming in from everywhere. China, not only directly from China, but China ships it to South America. China ships it to Canada. It's going from Europe to the United States. And so this is the war that we're fighting. And that's what we are hoping that all of you can help us win over the next several years.
Just one thing on information sharing, just so you guys understand our battle rhythm, and I'm sure most of you know it already, but nearly every morning, the deputy director and myself go across the street to the Department of Justice to meet with the AG, the DAG, and their leadership team. And we brief them on your information, on your cases. So I want you guys to know that the work you're doing is literally being talked about every single day. And the best work that you're doing, and I'm biased from my background, is the task force work that we do. But I just want you to let you know that they're listening to it, they're hearing it, and they're responding to it. And so it's critically important that that continues.
Well, that's a great segue, because what I want to talk about next is the task forces. Because as we all know, these men and women make up the majority of the task forces in this country, right? The state and local folks. And we've been working very closely from NSA with Stephen Miller, Tony Salisbury, and others, because what we've had come up, and I know you're all aware of it, is this document of these of the new HS task force. Now, we've had some angst against that, and we've been vocal. We were in Washington D.C. a couple of weeks ago, meeting at the White House. I think we're going back next week as well. And our concern, just so everyone's clear, is that the task forces, you specifically in the FBI has been doing this for a long time with task forces. You know what to do. A lot of us have been on those FBI task forces. And what we don't want to see is that unraveled, because we've talked very openly to Stephen Miller about this, the Deputy Chief of Staff, so it's not nothing, this is all open information. What we want to know, kind of from your folks, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot either in that, or get us into a fight, but what we believe is we have to have input, and we've been given, the president's been very kind, and Stephen Miller as well, spoke with General Bondi about this. We need to keep in place these task forces like the FBI and the people, the men and women that are supplying that manpower. If we hand it off to somebody who doesn't know what to do, how to do criminal investigations like the way you do or the way we do, that's going to hurt your office as well, because we're not going to get those prosecutorial cases. So again, maybe neither of you want to talk about that, but if you don't mind, I think it would put some minds at ease out here, what we're dealing with.
It's okay. Who's worked on a task force? Right? I mean, this is what you guys do. This is what we do. And having a new task force, in my opinion, is only because you guys have been so effective at every task force that's ever been created. Whether it's HIDA, whether it's JTTF, whether it's trafficking task force, whatever it is, whatever agency, department, bureau, division it is. And this administration is correct on focusing and addressing the illegal invasion of our country, which is the root cause of so much of our criminality, our national security risk, and what we're talking about today. And so I think that while I understand, first of all, the FBI's task forces aren't going anywhere. We know that. The Department of Justice knows that. They support us in that. But what Stephen Miller and the president and the administration are trying to do is replicate that task force model, because we need your expertise. There is no other way. There is no other way to go out there and apprehend every single illegal alien and violent criminal. We have to have a method to do so. And we were forced into this situation by the prior administration's complete malfeasance in protecting our nations. So we are asking you to adjust with us while we do this mission set. I know we're adding more in your rucksack, and that's a lot to ask of you when we already ask everything of you. But there literally is no one else left to ask. And there's no one else that I would trust to ask to do that mission. And if we didn't think you guys could do it, or we didn't think our folks could do it, we wouldn't take it on. But it's more work for everybody, and there are frustrations with it, trust me, I get it. But we need you guys all in on it, otherwise it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
go ahead,
and
sir.
just to show how much we need you guys, when your leadership reached out to the White House a couple weeks ago, it took about 27 seconds for me to get a phone call myself about it. So we're not supposed to be, we don't, I hope nobody that's working with me claims to be perfect or have all the answers. And so there were some communication challenges that I think they were on us, not on your leadership and not on the state and locals, that we're addressing now. But at the end of the day, what the director just said is right. We cannot be successful without you all. No task forces. I mean, I used to, when I was a prosecutor, I used to make fun of the task forces because it was basically just a way for the feds to get good cases from the state, because that's the way we get our best cases. And so there's no task force that exists without sheriffs and state and local partners working with us. But we bring a lot to the table too. I mean, the FBI, they bring everything to the table, from intelligence and the expertise that they bring. So I'm not saying we're showing up empty-handed, but we're not coming with our sharp elbows, into your city and telling you to get out of the way. We're asking you to move in with us again, and so that shouldn't be lost on anybody, and it's not lost on us in DC either.
Well, you have our commitment. You know me, and you know that I am, and I'll be passing the reins on here in a few days, but I'm going to stay involved at the request of the incoming president. You have our commitment. We're going to keep seating at that table. We're going to work out whatever we need to work out, because we have to remain the point of the spear. So I do want you to have that assurance. I'm glad we were able to talk a little bit about it, because it is on our minds. And I know that communication, that can get bad at times. Well, we address it.
The communications key is, as the DAG said, is the cornerstone of it. And when you and I first met, when I was, I guess, auditioning for this job, I promised you that if I got in the seat, state cops, sheriffs would have a seat at the table.
Yep.
And I think you guys have now seen that you have multiple seats at the table at FBI HQ. We've created a council that reports directly to the FBI Director's Office of state and local law enforcement officers. And right now we're calling the community through the NSA and other organizations to fill those seats. But I also told you we would put 3 to 4 law enforcement officers in Washington, D.C., and now we figured out a way, thanks to our great team, that the FBI is largely going to pay for it too. So we need your assistance in identifying those folks, and I think that's going to help communication, because we're going to have sheriffs, we're going to have Indian country representatives, we're going to have all sorts of law enforcement in DC sitting there to work on this communication so we can get it to the department, because the department has all the components of law enforcement. The FBI is just one. Yeah. But our job is to get them the comms, and that we need from you.
Well, yeah. Well, and I'll commend you too, because the other thing you told me and told us on that first meeting was, I'm going to put some people out in the field, and you damn sure done that. You put some people in the field, and we appreciate you. Deputy General, obviously China is an ever-present looming danger. I was just speaking to part of your team before you arrived today about the vapes and the tobacco and the marketing to children, especially young girls, and the chemicals and tobacco in these things, and then also the screens that they got to plug into and then say, here, give me your information, so they're data mining. That's just one small aspect of what we're facing out there. We know China is such an alarming threat, and as the director has said, they had years to infiltrate people and get them in place. What, from the department, DOJ, In terms of your office, Attorney General's office, what's your thoughts on that? How do we approach, again, as a nation, and with help, how do we approach this continuous building threat from China?
Yeah, it's the biggest issue in my mind when it comes to keeping our communities safe, which is the fentanyl crisis. I mean, I think at the end of the day, there's still problems in lots of other spaces, cocaine, meth. But at the end of the day, because of the way that the fentanyl trade is running and working right now, it is a problem that is extraordinarily complicated, and a lot of reasons go into that. The precursors change regularly. So the second that we identify a precursor that's killing people in our communities, they adjust it and find another one. The way that it's shipped, like I said a few minutes ago, it's extraordinary when you think about the way they're getting into this country. It's going directly into some of our ports in Savannah, Houston. It's also going to Guatemala. It's going way down south. It's going to Canada. So stopping it from getting into this country, I mean, closing the borders was a really big first step. But we have a lot of exports and imports, and there's a lot of opportunity to get those precursors into this country. And so I wish I could say I have an answer and we're going to win it and I'll get back to you by Christmas, but I don't. I mean, I think what we're doing right now, we're pouring resources, we're pouring intelligence, we're pouring law enforcement, complete focus and attention on not just going after the dealers at the street level, which is important, but going after others as well, and all the way up and all the way into China. So it's something that should keep all of us awake at night because it's not something that's getting fixed right away. It's a problem that we have to deal with.
Well, that's excellent. I'm really glad to hear you say that. Obviously, the threats are many, but just like the Deputy General said here, we have the southern border. The Trump administration, we all, the Customs Border Protection, our colleagues in green have done a hell of a job down there, and of course the president putting in troops to assist in that. But we have the northern border too, and it's twice as long. It's nearly 6,000 miles up there, and there's a lot of folks and a lot of sheriffs in this room who deal with the waterways in the Northeast, in the Northeast region. Of course, here we are in the Southeast region too. So we're really glad to see as much activity from the Coast Guard and so on and so forth. But this northern border and the infiltration of our sovereign lands, of our Indian reservations and those things, we're very aware of that, and we're hopeful that in the package, in the bill that the president has, that Congress is bringing, that the money is going to be there to assist getting more resources up on that northern border, because I think it's we all know that is an Achilles heel, that we're just shifting that pressure somewhere else. And so I think that's something that perhaps, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, sir?
Well, the CCP is the adversary of our time, and anyone that says otherwise is being selfish or lying to you or looking for financial gain. And that's a different calculation for those in Wall Street, but that's not my calculation, and I don't really care about it. But they are smart. They are partnering up with the Mexican drug cartels, with the Russians, with every adversary we have, and saying, look, we don't really like each other, but we just hate America. So why don't we team up? And you know what they did? They went to the north. And as we were discussing, while we've done such a great job through your work in this administration on the southern border, the northern border is too vast for the federal government to cover down on. It's impossible. We need you. You're the northern front. And just to put a statistic out there, last year there was like 330 known or suspected terrorists that crossed into the United States of America that we know about. Almost 300 of them entered through the northern border. That should tell you everything you need to know about who's using the northern border for what. Not just terrorism. Now they're moving the drug trafficking trade up there, and they're moving the fentanyl distribution up there. And whether or not they're putting it down into America, that's a different question. The fact that they're doing it and allowing themselves to partner with our adversaries just to come after Americans should hopefully highlight to the communities how much we need you on the northern border. I do hope this package has funding for it, but I'm just telling you right now, the USG from DC cannot solve the northern border, and many Americans are not attuned to what is going on up there, and so part of our job is delivering that message. But the bigger ask is relying on you and your teams to help us cover down on that tract of territory.
Agreed. And and part of that is, there's two things. Part of that, to be able to do that, is information sharing, right? That information sharing is critical to what you do, critical to what we do, and I think there's some work to be done with that, right? Through the DOJ, through us, and I think we're getting closer to that. Obviously, all of our meetings back in Washington, I think we're getting closer to that. But I think that's something we, as an organization, as a national sheriffs, and of course our colleagues, the major county sheriffs, major city chiefs. We've got to find a way to bridge that information sharing gap of data, information on individuals in our jails, where they're at, those types of things, whether it's ATF, DEA, you name the acronym, that information, we have to find a way to share that, because sometimes in the past, not saying right now, but information goes in, but nothing comes back our way. So I would just ask that we kind of monitor that, especially in your position. You have a lot more, in reality, ability to kind of make sure we're getting that back. But I think it's helpful because of what you're doing right at headquarters, where you're putting people there from the sheriffs, from law enforcement. I think that's going to help tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest component of sharing information is if you don't know that people downrange aren't getting it, then you don't know that there's a problem. And if you don't know who's not getting what, then you don't know what to send out. So that's part of the initiative that we have and we're pretty much done. I think you're helping us fill out some of those last remaining applicant slots, and we should have that stood up here shortly. But while we're sharing information back out, and you definitely have our commitment to do that, to continue to do that, we need every single precinct and every single sheriff's office in this country reporting in, because our data is only as good as what comes in, and then we can share out what we have. So we're not at 100% when it comes to CJIS and biometrics and data from local arrests. And I know you guys do a great job. I'm asking you guys to message out to the other communities. If we can get that last 10%, then we can have the full picture and we can have better data to focus down on what the crime threat is and who needs resources and where these task forces go and where we stand up our next adventure to take on violent crime. So that's my ask of you, but we will continue to share.
I appreciate that. And, we'll wrap this up here. I know we have a tight schedule. We have a nice presentation here right after this we want to get to. Thank you both for being involved in that before we bring those people out. I think, Todd, you said something very important, and it's something that when I took the reins here a year ago as the president, obviously we're in the chairs for a while, but I speak all over the country on the cartels, and I travel and I educate sheriffs and sheriff's officers about because I spend a lot of time on the borders, both north and south. And the one resounding thing, and you brought it up, we're at war. We're at war with these people. It doesn't matter if China is the label, or Hamas, or the Mexican cartels. They were now terrorist organizations. They're labeled as terrorist organizations. And I think part of the problem in America is that they don't realize we're at war, right? I mean, we do, because we're at the front lines every day. But let's end, if we can, just a few thoughts on how we get that messaging out. Other than a prosecution, it's great. We get a few headlines on that day, but then people go back to their ordinary lives, and they're not seeing, unless they've been victims of the fentanyl trade, killing, my family included, right, losing members to the fentanyl, then it doesn't really get through that first level. So maybe we close it with just a few comments on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, look, I think that it's a great question, and why isn't everybody in this country as angry and frustrated and heartbroken and motivated to change the fentanyl and the meth crisis in this country? Like, what is the messaging that needs to be better? You're right. Arresting a local dealer and putting him in prison, whether it's federal or state prison, makes a statement at a very small micro level. But at the macro level, what are we doing? What can we do better? And from where I sit at the Department of Justice, what I say to my people that that then hopefully say it to the folks that they're helping lead, is just constant encouragement and support from the Department of Justice. Like, we will not stand in your way. We're not, I mean, the last administration put incredible restrictions on prosecutors on when they could charge certain statutes for drug crimes. We removed that. So that doesn't mean that alone is gonna fix it. But working with state and local, working with communities on the addiction issues and addiction problems in our prison systems, spending more money. Our budget this year for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, we increased it dramatically, because that's another place that that's another place that there's a major shortfall in my view, in what we're doing to make sure that folks that are in prison because of an addiction get the help that they need. So I think that it takes all of us being motivated every day to know that it is the biggest crisis, certainly of my generation, that doesn't have an easy fix. I mean, we go back to cocaine, but cocaine didn't infiltrate our communities, state and local, our rural areas, the way that the meth and the fentanyl epidemic has done. And it scares me that there isn't complete and total outrage from the very top to the very bottom about it, but you're getting outrage from me, and you're going to get outrage from the Department of Justice for the next 4 years at least, and I know you get the same thing from the FBI and from every federal law enforcement agency. So,
Well stated, sir.
Yeah, just real quick on that. I echo everything that the DAG said, and I think I'll leave you with this. This year, thanks to your work, we are on track to have the lowest murder rate ever. That's good cops being cops. But it was a big process to get there, not just cracking down on murderers, but highlighting that it was a national security crisis. And that took years to educate the American public that it was such a big problem. Fentanyl is no different, in my opinion. We have to go out there and message to our local communities. I talk about it in every single scenario I'm in and get an opportunity to discuss it. Besides China, I talk about fentanyl and drug trafficking and sex trafficking. And these crimes are all also happening on our Indian country. And we have got to help the folks out there. There is no distinction for us at FBI or DOJ on where the crime is committed. But if we can get some of these atrocities that are happening, not just in rural America, but in Indian country and in urban America, that's a key component to help us solving and putting front and center the crisis that is fentanyl. You've got the team in place. We have you there. I think we can get there, but it will take some time, but we will need you.
Thank you. Well, gentlemen, we are out of time on this part. Please give a round of applause for the Director of the FBI and Deputy Attorney General Blanche.